For Tour Live. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by James Higgins. He's an Anfield app listener, Liverpool fan, but has also set up a football agency with a bit of a difference. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that and the reasons for setting up. But first of all, James, thanks for coming in to see us.
Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
We just had a beer to warm up. Very important to warm up the vocal cords. But you're also telling me a little bit about the reasons for setting this football agency up, and that's because of a lot of problems that footballers, even at the very highest level, get into after they've stopped playing.
Yeah, so footballers obviously sometimes can get a bad rap, no pun intended. But you know, the stats behind it were kind of quite shocking when I started researching into this during lockdown. And you've got 40% of footballers that are within 2 years of finishing the game are bankrupt. 50% are suffering serious mental health challenges. And I just started to think, well, you know, is there something that I can do in this? My background is in education and creating programs, and thought possibly I can step in here and make a bit of a difference with the way that I act with athletes.
Those statistics are crazy, aren't they? And I know football isn't alone in this. We were just talking earlier about similar stats I've seen for American football, and you know, for a lot of different sports where people, you know, either sort of living in the moment and thinking, oh, this is going to sort of carry on, or aren't being given, I guess, the skills or the information to plan for a rainy day.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get our heads around because the numbers are so different to what we're used to. But I suppose if anyone can identify with kind of moving their spending up as their income goes up, and you kind of still haven't got too much left at the end of the month, no matter what as you go up. I guess footballers to some degree act the same, but their career is cut short at 30, 35, and actually a third of players finish before that. They don't choose when their career ends. That might be injury, it might be a coach's decision, and so but then their income level drops off to basically zero. And I suppose one of the issues that I see in that is what are clubs doing when they're kind of filtering players through the academy system, 1% of which will actually make some money out of the game, 99% won't. And you know, there was a player who was on on a charity program that I built, which was my previous life. The last 10 years of mine have been in education. And she was choosing between Liverpool and Everton, actually. She's a very good goalkeeper. But they wouldn't let her study A-levels. So instead she chose to go with Fleetwood Town because they would let her study A-levels, and she was a bright girl. She'll be making it to Birmingham Uni later this year, actually. And I suppose players are funneled down similar pathways. It might be leisure and sports science as a BTEC or something like that. And actually these are low-paying careers if players don't make it. Or even if they do, you know, what skill set are we setting them up for after their career? So that's where I'm coming in, trying to sort of work with players much earlier on in their career and building towards that post-career thing. I mean,
there's the money aspect, but there's also, I know I've heard footballers talk about, you know, replacing that buzz and you know, getting into maybe problems with gambling and things like that when you're looking for the thing that's replacing, you know, what you've missed, which is playing football, the thrill of winning, scoring a goal, even the dressing room humour. And I think that's where the mental health aspect comes into it, isn't it? Because, you know, like you said before, there's very few footballers who get to go out on a high, you get to walk out, you get to say bye-bye, you know, that's me, you know, stroll off the pitch for, you know, and into the sunset. For most footballers, actually it's someone else or something else that's making that decision for you, and then suddenly you've not just got the loss of income, but the loss of everything you knew and everything you love.
Yeah, I mean, maybe except for Divock Origi, who's going off into the sunset in Italy, isn't he?
Yeah, he gets the beautiful moment.
Yeah, and rightly so. But yeah, no, you're right, and the huge aspect of that is the identity that a player puts behind being a footballer. Unlike any of us, what's the identity that we associate with is kind of what you do. And when they've been doing that since they were sort of 5 years old, but haven't sort of thought about what their identity is maybe outside of football or after the career finishes, when most of us are just getting started with our career, that's sort of what we're looking to start building on and working on early in the career. And there's evidence actually to suggest that players can perform better, be in teams longer, increase the longevity of their career when they're kind of planning around their career as well. There's something about that sort of loss that they might experience when their career's over, that if they're working to set aside that loss, that there are benefits to that in the kind of mental health aspect.
What's the reaction you've had sort of from within the game and from people within football? Because I guess it's sometimes hard when you've got one agency saying, we'll get you a great boot deal and we'll make you loads of money. Then these other guys who are like, we're going to look after your long-term mental health. It's not quite as sexy, is it? That's fair.
It's not as sexy, yeah. Notice you pull my website up and, there's something about kind of, so we are actually sort of terming kind of things around mental strength. And so, but I think this is something that we can all really take into our lives, is sort of a proactive nature in terms of how we kind of deal with mental health. And so things like looking at your values, looking at your identity and building that proactively rather than reactively. And I think a lot of players, as they move towards the end of their career, are reacting rather than being proactive. But you are right, and we're not going to be for everyone, and there's a reason that we're sort of, the intention really is to, one of the strap lines is to kind of work with 100 only. I don't, there are a lot of young players that are obviously influenced by peers, influenced by kind of what they see in the game already. You speak to other agents and, mainly their selling line is, well, we represent Jadon Sancho, or we represent, Marcus Rashford, come with us. And so I think there are some families and some players that can listen to what you're saying, and if they need to be ready to sort of meet you halfway as well, to sort of think about the things that they want to focus on outside of the game and understand that maybe this isn't forever. And obviously you don't want to detract from like the excitement that a young player is feeling about the career. And, if you start to get into things, you start to look at the numbers actually, the Forbes list of top 10, top 50 players, the richest players in the world, a lot of the money actually is not being made in the sport. It's being made outside of the sport. So take last year's earnings. Conor McGregor, the MMA fighter, was top with 110 million actually.
He's got whiskey, hasn't he?
100 million of it was through his business. 10 million was from fighting. And so, there is another element to what we're doing here that's looking at the post-career, that's saying, look, well, actually, what we want to do is think about how you might create a business, how you might create a charity. And there is that giving back aspect that I want to kind of look at with players as well. And don't get me wrong, lots of players give back. But in terms of kind of, we don't just want them giving the money, we want them to be involved in the process of running their charity or involved in the process of running their business and developing those skills, so that when that day comes, when the career finishes, it's not, wow, what am I going to do when I wake up tomorrow? Because there's so much discipline that's kind of imposed on the players. We go here now, you eat this, you drink that, and we're leaving here now. Whereas as soon as that finishes, and this is the thing that, a lot of ex-players talk about, is there's that loss of identity, but there's that loss of routine. And what you mentioned as well, John, is the kind of loss of camaraderie as well.
And being so well looked after that, I've heard players say I didn't even know how to pay a bill. Do you know what I mean? I've never cooked for myself before and things like that. And I guess it's life skills as well for the future.
100%. And, and part of that, what we do when we start working with a player or a coach, there are some managers that are working with us, is kind of look at those values and the things that they cherish or pay attention to outside of football as well. But it doesn't have to be just a business. It's, well, what are your relationships like with your family? Do you have a hobby? What are you outside of a footballer? And that can bring quite a lot of stress relief as well from a player who, if we can get them involved in something else, maybe it stops them looking at all those comments on Instagram. Curtis Jones had massive issues with that kind of earlier in the year, and Neco Williams, and so it's can we be doing something proactive and positive away from the game as well.
Well, good luck with it. Thanks for coming in, James. The website which you did clock me pull up is harbingerfootball.com if people want to have a little look. There might be some young players listening to this who are interested. But yeah, come in and see us again. Tell us now how you're getting on.
John, thanks so much.